Hey everybody, what's going on? Let's do a quick chat about the Black Lantern ring, the newest one that was debuted at Champion Clicks Open in Florida. It recently received an errata, and I think everybody can agree that it should have received an errata. But I want to talk about the fact that I believe that they went a little too far with it, um, and just kind of what it meant as a prize, and and the unfortunate reality where when WizKids doesn't play test their game elements enough. I can't say they don't play test them at all, but I can guarantee they don't play test them enough, and they release things that are way too strong, and then they're forced to errata them, and in this case, like I said, I think a little bit too much. So let's just get into it. But before we do, as always, we are unofficially sponsored by Cliff Nut Butter Bars. They're the greatest peanut butter bar that exists on planet Earth currently. Um, if you know of a better one, you're a liar. The Black Lantern ring originally, I'm going to read what its text is on its card before the errata, of course. It used to say, when this character would be KO'd, instead turn them to any click that could have been on this game and give them a reanimate token. If you do, they gain immune until your next turn. That's a double slash. If this character has a reanimate token when they would take damage or when Black Lantern Ring would be unequipped, instead remove Black Lantern Ring and the equipped character from the game. Protected Pulse Wave. So it's 20 points unless you put it on assign it to a character with Black Lantern Core keyword, then it's 0, of course. So it's at its face value, if you're just assigning this equipment to a regular quote unquote character, basically not a power battery. If you're assigning it to a regular character, it's not really that good, because there's a character called Prime Rogue. Well, I mean, she's really just called Rogue, but she's a Prime. But Prime Rogue makes any equipment that is any equipment that would be too good. Prime Rogue just says, "No, I'm just going to unequip you, and then you're not going to get the effect of it." So realistically, anybody with the Black Lantern ring that has it equipped will never be able to use its effect, whether it be the old one or the new one. But before I get into more stuff, let's talk about the new effect. It was errated. So what does it say now? The first part of it is the same. It says when this character would be KO'd, instead turn them to any click they could have been on this game and give them a reanimate token. All right, that's all the same. But here's where it's a little bit different, because it says if you do, they gain immunity to your next turn, and this game they have quote immediately when this character takes damage or when they can't use the effect of this Black Lantern ring while nothing is resolving, then remove this character and any this Black Lantern ring equipped to them from game. Protective Pulse Wave. So what did that necessarily fix? So again, as I just mentioned, it even in its original state, the Black Lantern ring wasn't that strong when assigned to a regular character, because Prime Rogue would just unequip it. Of course, there are some characters that can't be unequipped, mainly Ultra Chase Collector, but are you really going to use 20 points of his 30 free points of equipment on this thing just to get effectively one extra click of life? You're just going to put him back to his stop click, or not his stop click, his top click, excuse me, and then as soon as he takes damage again the next time, then he would be dead. So it's it's not great. But again, before what did you have to do before to score the character that was equipped with a Black Lantern ring? Okay, so you have to KO them once, then they're immune for a turn. They go back to click one or whatever click they want. Then the next turn, you would basically just have to deal them any amount of damage or unequip them. So, um, not necessarily deal them any amount of damage. Just it would say when they would take damage. So you have to basically, I'm just going to say the phrase "deal damage," but you understand what I'm saying. So you have to damage this character any amount or unequip them, and then you would score them, and you would also score the Black Lantern ring. That's also kind of important to know because you would get an additional 20 points for KOing the character that was assigned the Black Lantern ring, regardless if you paid for the ring or not. So I, kind of a balanced effect. It's like, yeah, you get one more last hurrah, but then if you KO me after that, then okay, fine, you get it, and you get another 20 points. Okay, I don't think anybody was complaining about that effect. Where it got broken was because the ring's effect um, included that clause of if they took damage and if they were unequipped, then remove them from game. That was part of the ring's effect. And if you couldn't use the effect of the ring, then you couldn't use that secondary effect anymore and you wouldn't have any downside. So the broken part of it was when you assigned the Black Lantern ring to a power battery, and then the power battery could then choose a friendly character with its, one power, and I say one as a literal number one, the one power. It's not a normal. It's not a normal power. It's not a special power. It's a whatever power. But it would use that. You can choose any friendly character. Then they could use the effect of the ring until the next turn. So effectively saying if they are KO'd, they would go back to click one. Generally speaking, they would be immune. And then at the beginning of your next turn, they wouldn't be able to use the effect of the equipment anymore, and you would never choose them again. Um, you know, willingly, I suppose. You would never choose them again. So therefore, if the opponent dealt that character any more damage, they wouldn't be removed from game. They would have to just be KO'd effectively twice, which that could be applied to every single character on your team at its worst, in its worst case. So that is obviously an unintended effect and should have been errated. So they did errata it, but like I said, I think they went a little bit too far. What was the problem with the Black Lantern ring when it was used with the power battery? As we just kind of already went over, the problem was that the character that you chose with the Black Lantern ring would lose the effect of the ring after they could have been KO'd and then became immune and were given a reanimate token. So the way that they changed this effect says that they now have an additional effect which lasts this game, which includes that means that even if the effect is lost, they still have it. And again, that effect is, quote, immediately when this character takes damage or when they can't use the effect of the ring, then blah, 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 remove this character and the Black Lantern ring from game. They changed the clause of instead of it being damaged or unequipped, it's now damaged or can't use the effect of the ring while nothing is resolving. So they changed that, and then that's really critical. And there are probably some corner cases where I'm not initially right now thinking of, where that is required. But I believe that if they simply changed the effect to say that uh, basically the secondary effect that would last this game, quote unquote, would be tied to the reanimate token itself. So I think the effect should have said that like this game, friendly characters with a reanimate token have following effects. So then that would mean that even if you use it on multiple characters, that the token effect uh, would continue to persist, and the token effect could say that when the character would take damage or when the character would be unequipped, I still think it should say unequipped. Then it should say, remove this character from the game, and any friendly Black Lantern rings, just period. Not, it doesn't have to be equipped to them. I think it just should say remove them and any Black Lantern rings from the game. That's it. And that would cover all their bases, because yes, you could still, technically speaking, reanimate multiple characters, in the sense that if you chose a friendly character with the power battery and your opponent KO'd them, then they got reanimated, go back to click whatever, became immune, and on your following turn, let's say you chose a different character, because you couldn't choose the same character again because it wouldn't really have an effect. Let's say you choose a different character, and then on your opponent's following turn, they KO that different character without damaging that first character at all. And then that second character would be reanimated again to click whatever, and they would be immune. So you could do that if your opponent, quote unquote, let you do that. But I believe it should just be tied, that secondary effect should have been tied to the reanimate token, where if you reanimate character A, and then on your next turn, you choose character B with the power battery to give them the effect of the Black Lantern ring. If the opponent damaged character A at all, then character A would be removed from game, and the Black Lantern ring that is attached to your power battery would also be removed from game. And there we go. That would solve the issue. Now even though you chose character B to get the effect of it, it's like, well, the ring's gone now. So you don't get any effect anymore. And that would prevent, in my eyes, I mean, again, I'm probably not thinking about this very very long. I don't think there's any infinite loops that you can figure out with that, but there may be. But the issue that I see now with the Black Lantern ring, because they changed the effect from or the clause from damage and unequip, and now it's to damage and can't use the effect. We have a very strong character that's coming down the pipeline. It's going to be meta, or I should say meta, but it will be meta, but it's going to be modern as of April 15th. Is a character called Eganrak or Carnage backwards, or whatever you want to call him, Gold Carnage. His effect of just saying that adjacent opposing characters can't use the effective equipment, or it is wild. That ability is very strong. And now that it means that even if you were to play this new Black Lantern ring, its effect doesn't do anything against Aganrak, because he can just walk next to whoever has the Black Lantern ring equipped, and either A, KO them normally and prevent them from being reanimated, or B, if they were already KO'd and reanimated, and then the following turn, because they're immune and whatnot. Well, actually, even if they were immune, I don't know. Eganrak probably gets through that, because just by standing next to them, he says that they can't use the effect of the equipment, and if they can't use the immunity, then maybe it doesn't work. I don't know. Again, see, this is how I'm not really thinking that hard about it, but it, Eganrak just goes, oh, let's just say you were revived, you were immune, and it's the following turn, and Eganrak just walks next to you. and then you're dead because you can't use the effect of the equipment. So you're removed from game and then scored, and then the ring's removed from game, assuming it was equipped to you, and then that would also be scored. But um, but yeah, even if in its original state, uh, did a couple practice games, and again, even it's in its original state, assigned to the black power battery or whatever power battery you want, but it should be the black one because you don't want to pay 20 points for this thing. It didn't do anything against Eganrak. It didn't do anything because it's just like whoever you pick with the power battery, that's who Eganrak attacks, and they will never be able to use the effect of the equipment. So it's just he's such a strong character for a multitude of reasons. Um, and I'm just disappointed now that this equipment that was only good in a very fringe case. Granted, in its original state, you could say it was broken, and I wouldn't disagree with you because I was one of the people that were saying it. But like I said, I think they should have errated it where all its secondary effects are tied to the reanimate token, and the reanimate token effect would last this game, and then and when a character that has a reanimate token would be removed from game, it would also remove any Black Lantern ring, that's friendly, of course, wherever it is from the game. So it doesn't matter if they were equipped to that character or assigned to the power battery. I just that would just solve the whole the whole problem. I don't know. I feel like that would be it. But um going and then it's going back to the kind of the crux of what I was getting at before with WizKids creating a very strong game element and then being forced to make an errata for it. It's disappointing. It's especially disappointing in this case because the Champion Clicks Open in Florida, for me personally, I am fortunate to say this. I've said this many times, but I'm fortunate to say that the Black Lantern ring was the only prize aside from the trophy construct, but that was given away as a participation prize, so I don't, not really counting that one. But the Black Lantern ring was the only prize that I was quote unquote competing for. Every other prize that was offered at Champion Clicks Open in Florida, I already had. And in many cases, I had multiple copies of them. Um, I believe anyway, I'm not even going to get into that because that's going to sound like I'm bragging. But the point is that this Black Lantern ring was the only thing I was competing for. And as I saw, like, yep, it's good in a very fringe case. In fact, it's too good in this fringe case. So they just need to make it, not too good in that fringe case. And then it would be still fun to play. And as it is now, it's not even fun to play. It's, and again, in a game where you're not using it on a power battery, it gets unequipped by Rogue, or it gets its effect taken away by Eganrak. Even if you play it on a power battery, it gets its effect taken away by Eganrak. And even if Eganrak is not the one KOing the person with the effect, then Eganrak just walks next to the person immediately after, and then they're KO'd by not being able to use the effect of the ring. So it's just ridiculous how I don't want to use the term worthless, but let's be real, like how worthless this game element is now. This Black Lantern ring is uh it's worse than a participation prize at this point, and that's unfortunate. I don't think it was smart for WizKids. I don't say WizKids or maybe CCO, but it wasn't smart to have this be a more or less top level prize during the events, and then weeks after the event concluded, they effectively say, "Hey guys, um, this thing's worthless now. You're not going to be able to sell it. You're not really going to be able to get enjoyment playing it at any reasonable competitive level. And then if you're playing casually, the other Black Lantern ring is just more fun." So yeah, it's and granted, it's like, could you use both Black Lantern rings? Like, yeah, I mean, you technically could in casual games, but it's like, what do again, it's like, what are we doing here, guys? You know? So I'm not a fan of, again, top level competitive prizing being given out, and then weeks later it's just saying, oh yeah, that prize that you got, like, it just doesn't do anything anymore. It's I again, I 100% agree that the Black Lantern ring should have been errated. 100%. But the way they changed it effectively said, okay, this thing is just not in the game anymore. And that is what I'm disappointed with. Um, so yeah, it's just I guess a lesson learned. I mean, this is not the first time this has happened, and it won't be the last. And I think that's kind of the key takeaway here, is that if you're going to an event for a specific prize, not that I didn't go to CCO for this Black Lantern ring, like I said, but if I was a player going specifically for this Black Lantern ring, I would be livid, at this errata. Um, and frankly, it's like I could care less, but maybe it's I couldn't care less, whichever one is grammatically correct. But the yeah, it's a bummer. It's a bummer for anybody who was excited about this cool, unique, interesting prize. Um, and now it's effectively worthless. And now you have the literal participation prize of Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern, and the trophy construct being way more powerful than this. Not that there really ever should be a direct disparity, in power level between prizes of a different level. You know what I mean? I'm kind of going off on a huge tangent here, as you can tell. But again, point is just be aware that if you're going to an event for a specific prize, and that prize, it's like, whoa, it's good, and it's in some cases it's too good, like they will have to change it, then just anticipate them changing it in such a way that it effectively is just completely neuters it, and it will not be playable um, for the remainder of its time in the game. Um, but the bigger lesson learned for me personally is that I shouldn't predict errata. Even though I predicted this one, I just didn't. I didn't predict it that correctly. Like I said, I knew they had to change it, but they changed it a little too harshly. But that's all. That's all I really wanted to go over today was the just Black Lantern ring. I can totally understand if other people are disappointed in its change. Could have been interesting. Too bad it's not. You'll never see it. Never see it really be played at any level, unless you do on purpose. And then if you do it on purpose, thanks for donating your entry fee to the rest of the prize pool.